Great.
Welcome everyone to the another episode. Today we have a Mr. Dennis Mark Interdonado all the way from US. So he is a business owner, entrepreneur, as well as a motivator. So he have a background of like blue collar, college educated, also army veteran. So he had worked in his family business all the way, served in the army for 10 years. Now he started his own business as well. So there is a lot of things going on with Dennis' life, and there is a lot of things we can learn from it as well as we get inspired by. Also, Dennis is going to share about the resilience and the struggle he had to go through and build a lot of things up. So we're gonna cover a lot of it, and we're gonna share his journey in this show. So before that, we need to welcome Mr. Dennis to the show. Dennis, welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm actually really excited to be here with you. I've been following your podcast, listened to a good amount of the cast that you've done, and you're spreading good stuff, man. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Thanks for having me here today. Really been looking forward to this.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, you are very my pleasure to be like having you in this show as well. And I like to first thank you for like serving for 10 years. I know like United States is not my country. I'm not living in there, but I always have the respect for those people, leave family, friends, everyone behind, and guarding the whole country for like love of that. And there is a discipline, there is a lot of things sacrifice you need to go through. It's not easy like for myself, like it's tough thing like to do. So I really appreciate that, and I'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It was a weird choice going in. I actually went into the army because I was bored with life. I had no direction.
Mm.
I just wanted to get out of where I was. As a teenager, just I didn't understand a lot of things. Things didn't make sense to me, and I needed a change. And it seemed like a great idea at the time. So
Yeah.
that's how my journey started with that.
Yeah, and on before we started recording this podcast, you mentioned like obviously you was working with your dad like in your family business, and that's where you got introduced with the business world and everything like that. Then you made the transition into army. Walk me through like before you go into the army, where were you? Like what was your career? What were you doing that time? And obviously you was educated in a college and everything like that. So walk us through like a let's take it back from it.
So it's a little bit of a unique situation. I don't know how it's in the UK, but over here in the United States, we have your active duty military, and then
Right.
we also have reserve status, and then we also have National Guard. National Guard is like your state militia.
Yeah.
Army Reserve would be the ancillary to the regular army. So I was 19 when I decided to enlist. I was going to community college at the time. I was able to leave for my base training and my AIT, which is individual training, but I enlisted into the National Guard. So that gave me the opportunity to remain a civilian and be a soldier at the same time. So when I completed my initial training, I came back home and I went back to my regular life. And then one weekend a month and a few weeks every summer for the next 10 years, that's how I served the military,
Yeah.
all the while maintaining a civilian life. So essentially pulling double duty.
Right. So you was like working in the military and the other place as well. So how was you managing the time?
It wasn't that difficult, to be honest with you. I mean, in the beginning, it wasn't.
Right.
When I started getting into, well, when I started training to become a drill sergeant, uh, my time definitely changed. Like the amount of time I have changed. And at that time, I was already into the family business working for dad, but he was very supportive about it. My brother was also in the military. He was in the National Guard as well. And my father was super proud of both of us. So
Mm.
him and mom were extremely supportive of anything we wanted to do regarding our military efforts. So he allowed me the time to go and study and just work certain days and sometimes not work on Friday because I had to leave to go get to drill or whatever. I guess having that family business and that relationship with my parents and having their support certainly helped in the journey. it really wasn't any additional stress on my life at all. In fact, it made it easier for me to make those decisions knowing that my parents were so supportive.
Yeah. And so obviously working in a family business, sometimes it get really difficult and sometimes like it makes it so much fun there. I worked with my dad like a beginning when I was like 8, 9 years old, and he had a lung cancer. I don't know, like if you've gone through my story on the podcast. So he passed away when I was 13 years old. So when I
Wow.
was like 8, 9 years old, he diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4. So he knew like he's not gonna make it, and that time like he was helping me learning the entrepreneurship, how to run a business and things like that. And I was working with him like really closely, and I really enjoyed every single bit of it. And then obviously when I moved to UK and started another business with my brother, that was a restaurant business. At the beginning, it was really nice. Then after that, the relationship, the partnership wasn't going well, and from there on I decided like I'm not gonna get into like a family business again. So there was like a both side of it, like a good and bad. Like with my dad I really enjoyed it, with my brother is not so much. How's your journey with like running the family business with your dad?
It was actually amazing. My father is an extremely patient man,
Yeah.
and he's a self-taught man. His upbringing was rough.
Mm.
So I guess it's amazing the way my father turned out based on the life he had prior to him meeting my mother and them starting our family. But he turned out to be this amazing man with a ton of patience, and he's a great mentor and a great teacher. And it was a lot of learning by observation with me. Um, Early on, when I started in the business, my brother and I, we were laborers. We started from the ground up. I started picking up nails, sweeping the floors, digging the holes, filling up the dumpsters,
Yeah.
everything that a helper would do, cleaning up at the end of the day, setting up the tools in the morning for all the guys, breaking all the tools down at the end of the day. Those were my jobs. So I learned from the very, very bottom all the way to the very, very top. The business got really busy really fast though. So 2 years into me working physically, my father pulled me out of the field and brought me into the office to help him run the business. That's
Right.
when my relationship with him really started to solidify and like change for the better. I never really had like a strong relationship with my father until I started working with him and just got to understand different sides of him that I never would have seen had I not been working with him.
Yeah.
And he was open to my ideas, no matter how crazy or far-fetched they were, and it was the typical old school versus new school father
Yeah.
and son duo. Like we went through it all.
Yeah.
We would have arguments, but we never fought. That was once one thing I have to say is never fought with my parents, never fought with my dad in business. We would air out our frustrations,
Mm.
but we always left it in the office. It never affected our family life. We never brought it home. Even though the office was in the basement, we had the ability to not let work affect the family,
Yeah.
which is very, very hard when it's a family business.
Yeah.
But my father's very level-headed, and I wasn't. I am now. But like I said, that was a behavior that I learned through observation with my father, through years of seeing him handle um, people in general, whether it's people being mean to him or people treating him the way he should be treated, or him encountering specific situations. And I'm like, I don't know how the hell we're going to get out of this. And he's all cool, calm, and collected, like, don't worry about it. This is easy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've been through this before. And certainly gained like so much additional respect for my father in such a different way. And a lot of those characteristics that I learned from him, I now have brought with me into my life as a man and everything that I do. So super fortunate for that. And yeah, working with my dad was absolutely incredible. And to this day, we still sometimes will take on work together, or he'll call me up and be like, "Hey, are you working from home today? I'm gonna come over and do this to your house," because he's so
Yeah.
bored. And he's like, can you help me? And I'm like, I can't help you today, but let's schedule something for maybe 2 weeks from now, and he'll come over and we'll work together for the day. And it's
Yeah.
it's just like old times again. And I tell you what, man, like I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's one of my best memories in my life and still one of my favorite things to do. Not everyone can say
Mm,
that they not only have a relationship with their father like that, but that they are still able to do the things together that brought them together in the first place. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
totally. Yeah,
Yeah, super
and the things you just
fortunate.
touched base on, really, I can relate you to that. Like old mind versus the new mind, and where like you have to have a
Yep.
respect as well. So I had the same way like yours, like how your dad took on your advice and things like that. So we had that, like think about like a 9 years old kid teaching someone. My dad was a 60 that time, 61 or 62. So learning from someone like 50 years younger than you, and just like be open to new things, the computer technology and everything. It was mind blowing. And sometimes, like I looking back, I was like, how many people I give the respect, like a 10-year-old or 9-year-old, and this is like something I need to learn from. And now I believe that even though my son is like 5 6 year old, there is so much things that I can learn from, and I
Yeah.
actually like create the respect and the bonding. Because when you like say like, hey, I'm older than you, I know everything, and you don't know nothing about it, and then you stop learning yourself. And also like the person, like if you have a child, they stop talking to you about anything or sharing any ideas. Like they probably can do something better than you probably, but they're not going to open up because like you're going to dismiss them before they say anything. You're going to think like he's a stupid person, isn't it? So
Yeah,
that, yeah.
100%. 100%. It's so funny that you're mentioning that. I just put a post out on Facebook last night
Mm.
because I'm trying to increase some of my online presence, right, for my
Yeah,
business. Um, but there's just certain things that I don't know how to do, and I don't really want to take the time to learn them. So I put a post out, do any of my friends have children who want to help me with like my short form content and my home tours and everything? Because I know that there's kids that they know these phones like the back of their hands, and
yeah,
me, I'm gonna be 47 in like 2 weeks. I'm starting to get beyond that learning curve of embracing some of this new technology.
yeah.
So I totally get what you're saying about your 5-year-old and how he could do things that you can't do.
Yeah, totally. Like
Yeah.
I seen like a few Indian kids, and they're like 4 or 5 years old. They build a business with the coding and software, and they are raising money for 10, 15 millions by the time they are 10 years old. So obviously their parents respected their ideas and supported them. Otherwise they wouldn't be where they are right now. So, and right now their children are like more cleverer than like 100 years back when compared to their age range. And I think like people are trying to get more mature. I believe that, but some people will be agree and some will be disagree. It depends like how you raise them. If you leave them on just watching
Mhm.
a television all the 24/7, and they not develop the way the brain is. But if you train someone from early age 2, age 3, if you look at the Chinese children, they start doing Olympic training age 2 or 3 years old, I think. And by the time they are like 6 7 years old, they are like already at league level. And when they're teenage age, like they're competing. So obviously they had to create them some kind of system or in consistency for doing to happen. And obviously you need like a great coach or mentor for that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that bit about like your dad and like how you guys bonding, and I'm really happy for you. And obviously I
Thank you.
cannot do that with my dad, and I appreciate every single bit of it, like as you can till he's alive or you alive, and this is the way life is. So walk me through like after you gone to like military and came back after serving 10 years. A lot of people like they live off with their retirement plan or like get a job. Some people get lost, some people have like a different ideas. Why did you chose to get into business of real estate?
Real estate was it was out of means.
Hmm.
Um I needed money. I needed money. So let's backtrack a little bit on the timeline and it'll bring us right up to how I got into real estate. So
Sure.
my father, he ended up retiring around 2017. 2016, he started 2015, 2016, he started to like wind down. I had taken the business over in 2015 and I just like I was becoming miserable
Right.
because it ended up at one point it was just me in the office now. Now we had moved out of the basement. We actually had a brick and mortar. The business was doing well.
Hmm.
It wasn't anything like that. But when my father started winding down, I said to myself, I just don't want to do this. And I realized that construction wasn't the passion for me. It was working with my dad that kept me here.
Yeah.
So when he was gone, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I'm friggin' miserable. I construction just wasn't the passion anymore, you know. Working for people in that capacity, it is a difficult business. Not that it's any much more difficult or less difficult with what I do now, but it's different. So, excuse me. I sat down with my mom and dad. I asked their permission to shut the business down.
Hmm.
They said yes. You know, I told them I was like, I'm just like, I'm not happy. I'm very depressed. I do not want this for the rest of my life, and I won't shut this down if you don't. If you tell me don't shut it down, I won't. But I just want to let you know that this is, I'm just not happy anymore. So
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, go ahead, shut it down. It's okay. So I did. I did it properly. I
Yeah.
honored. I honored all the jobs that I did, even though I shut the business down a year later. If there was an issue, I still went back. I still took care of it on my own dime because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And in that year, I just kind of went through a transition. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I had to get a job. I
Hmm.
went back to bartending to supplement my income. I used to bartend when I was in college.
Yeah.
So I went back to bartending to supplement my income. I was collecting unemployment, but I still wasn't making the money I needed.
Right.
So I applied for a job
Yeah.
at my old town in the township, and I got a job with the township, which turned into me going into another job into the sewer department for that town. And for the next 2.5 years, I was with that sewer department.
Mm.
While all this was happening, I had remembered, oh, I have my real estate license, which I have had for a while because back in like the mid 2000s, like 2011, 2012, um, we really got heavy into flipping. But prior to that, years later, we had started thinking about flipping. So I went and got my real estate license. So I had had it for years. Remembered that I had it and said, maybe I could try to supplement my income with the real estate. Real estate was just a part-time thing, right? It was just a
Hmm.
means for me to make some additional money. So I started posting on social media. I found a new company to go with, which is the company I'm with now, which is Keller Williams. And
Yeah.
I just started doing it, you know, part-time, like part-time, making some posts on Facebook and word of mouth, and that was it. And I started to generate some business. And I said, you know, maybe there's something here between the job I have in Howell and the real
Mm.
estate. Maybe I could really do some good here. You know, maybe I could get to six figures. I never like really made six figures. With the business, we never knew how much money we made because the business paid for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I never really knew how much money I was bringing in. I only knew how much money I was drawing every week to pay my personal bills.
Right.
But now everything was on me. It was completely different. So I'm saying to myself, I really need to do something here. So I jumped into real estate and I started doing real estate and it started getting bigger for me and bigger for me and bigger for me. And before I knew it, 2 years later, a year and a half later, I had far surpassed my township salary with real estate. And I'm talking like double, triple.
Yeah.
So at that
That's great.
point, thank you, thank you. I mean, it was great because that was the
Yeah.
catalyst that pushed me to where I am now. There was like new leadership in my office. They were pushing me to go full time. They kept saying to me, "You have a career here. You have a life here. Like this is your future. You should really consider becoming a full-time agent and just diving right in." So with their help and their push, I did make the decision to leave Howell Township, the sewer department, and I went full time. And honestly, that was May of 2022. May of 2022, I think.
Right.
21. I forget. Ever since then, though, I haven't looked back. It's just been full steam ahead, learning about myself, learning more about myself every day.
Mm.
educating myself so that I can educate everyone else. And yeah, like, I make money now. I'm making money. I'm making more money now than I ever thought I ever could make. But that's all because of what I learned
Yeah.
through Keller Williams and meeting all these new people and being opened up to all these new opportunities. So that was the build. That's how I got into real estate. I really got into real estate out of survival because I needed to make more money and I thought maybe I could do it with this. Fast forward to today and I'm like, there is nothing else for me. Like I was literally born to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Like you found your thing, and that is most important, isn't it? So tell me, like, what is the number one lesson you have learned over the years of running your own business, working in your dad business, or being in the military as a leader? Like, what is the number one lesson you have learned?
If you don't know what you're preaching, you're no good to anybody, right?
Yeah.
You can't fake it, you make it in this business. People will know you're a fraud. You have to be on top of your game. You have to know your product. You have to know your areas. You have to know your towns. You need to know. You have to always constantly be wanting to learn more because that want to learn more, not only is it going to make you, a better realtor, which in turn is essentially supposed to make you more money, but that's not really the goal of what I'm doing here. My goal is to provide such an experience that people don't ever want to go anywhere else. I don't want people to just be like, oh, I have a really good realtor.
Yeah.
I want people to say, Dennis Mark started as my realtor, and now he's like our friend. He's a part of our family, and he's literally our first call every time we need something or somebody because we know that he's got a guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I want. And I also want people to remember me as somebody who wanted them to learn through the process, not just take them through the process. I want people to know what they're getting into. I want them to know and understand the steps because when we go and close on a house or we continue to do business through the years, that that means so much more for our relationship because it ends up not becoming business anymore. Like you're doing business, but the business becomes so easy. It
Right.
it's it flows because the trust is there so much that they will never think twice about going anywhere else. And that's really what I'm trying to do with my business. I want to be able to provide that experience, that overall experience so that no matter what, I'm their call. I'm their guy.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So, Dennis, we are nearly coming to end of this podcast episode. So, before we finish up here, what is the best place to find you if anyone wants to reach out to you or like learn more about your business? Where can anyone find you?
You can find me all over social media right now. If you look up Dennis Mark or Dennis Mark Real Estate, I will pop up everywhere. If it's on TikTok, it's red, white, and real estate, just like the flag, red, white, and blue, but red, white, and real estate. And you can call me or text me anytime, 732-598-2672. I will always get back to you.
All right, that's great, brother. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming to the show and sharing your valuable lessons as well as your journey with
I don't
us.
thank you, man.
Yeah.
This was great. I hope we can do it again in a year or something. That would be
Yeah,
great.
definitely. We try to revisit again, yeah, and see
Absolutely.
where you are and how things change. So thank you for coming to the show today, man.
Thanks, man. Looking forward to it. I'll keep in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode with Mr. Dennis. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If anyone wants to learn more about him, you can visit his website as well as you can find him on social media platform or you can send him a text or a call. I'm gonna put all the link on the description for you to find him easily. So until then, talk to you in the next episode.
Great.
Take care.